Hey folks, at the movies with film, got a really spooky film for you tonight. Remember the first time I saw this film myself. I saw it at a drive-in, believe it or not, which we'll clean up the screen here in a little bit. Saw this film, and there are some things in here that still, well, I had forgotten that I'd actually seen it before when I just saw it recently, and there's a couple scenes in here that are remarkable. And they kind of people my imagination. I got a vampire film for you. It's under a different set of titles. Bloodbath is one of the titles that you might have seen it under. Track of the Vampire is under what we have it as. 1966. This is really one of those hybrid films. And what I mean by that is that here is a film that is a combination of a lot of different directors and of different kinds of films joined together to make one movie. This is produced by Roger Corman. And you know that Roger Corman, in this later time period, is becoming somewhat more of a producer. He's still directing, but he's kind of now ushering in some new talent. One of the talents that he's ushering in is Jack Hill. Jack Hill, you know him from Spider Baby, the great wisdom of Lon Chaney Jr. that was dispensed in that film. That's Jack Hill. This film was, what happened is Corman had went out and bought a Yugoslavian film called Operation Titian, which dealt with paintings and forgery and things like that. And it starred Patrick McGee. Well, he took this film and he wanted to basically redo it so that he could release it in the United States. And he hired Jack Hill, who is the co-producer, and he's going to direct this film and write some new material for it, to make this film something more Americanized. It deals with this William Campbell. You know William Campbell. We saw him in Dementia 13. William Campbell is this painter who has some, when he paints these women that he works with, something mysterious happens to these women. And you have sort of this wax museum type of take going on. And he's kind of a wacky serial killer of some kind. Well, they weren't so happy with what they had, and they hired somebody else to come in and shoot some additional footage to add on to Jack Hill's, William Campbell's stuff, his paintings and his women and so on. They hired Stephanie Rothman. Now, Stephanie Rothman, you might know her from Velvet Vampire, was also a talent that was being worked with Roger Corman. She took and shot some extra scenes. She shot some beatnik scenes. She shot some scenes with a vampire running around attacking women. And some ballerina scenes. Particularly one ballerina scene, or a ballet sequence of a woman dancing on a beach. And it goes on forever. It's really a remarkable little scene of monotony. I really enjoyed it. The scene also that she shot of these vampire killings are quite remarkable. Those are the ones that I remember. I remember seeing these at the drive-in. I thought, this is remarkable, because what these are of is this vampire who seems to attack his victims near water and then drag them underwater. It's a particularly great scene in a swimming pool where you see the vampire vampirizing this woman in the deep end of a swimming pool. Wow. Wonderful idea. Wonderful idea. Reminds me of Folky's having one of his zombies fighting a shark. Okay, if you remember Zombie. Remarkable scenes. I think you're really going to enjoy this film. It's a hybrid. Now, this is not unusual, this idea of taking other people's footage and making it your own, redoing it, Americanizing it. You know that the Japanese cinema, Godzilla, and a whole series of films were often shot in Japanese versions, and then we shot some American scenes and edited them together so that we could release them in the United States. We know that Jerry Warren, who is sort of the king of this type of film, his Creature of the Walking Dead, two remarkable films that were taking Mexican products, redubbing them, and adding in great little sequences like Bruno de Visoto getting that world's longest on-screen massage. Remember that? That's cool. I ever want to watch that once in a while. You know, it kind of lifts my spirits to think about that. Now, at first glance, you go, geez, you know, these are sort of hacks. They're sort of taking other people's stuff and making their own just to re-release it and make money off of it. Well, maybe. But also there's something to be admired here. There's a sense of pastiche. a sense of a bricolage, of taking a series of things that come from different places and forging them together to create, well, something that doesn't necessarily always go together. It's not necessarily homogenized. It's heterogeneous. It's all over the place, and some things don't fit together. Notice, for instance, the guy who plays the vampire in the Rothman sequences, the vampirizing women in pools and things like that, doesn't look anything like William Campbell, who that's supposed to be. Now, I guess we're supposed to assume that when William Campbell becomes a vampire, he looks different. Well, okay. That's sort of that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing going on there. But they don't match. Now, in a conventional sense of cinema, you might say that that makes a bad movie. Well, another way to think about it is that creates a very interesting frisson, a friction of a sort, that creates poetic openings for us to be able to understand this film in new ways. That's what I admire about the Jerry Warren things, particularly the ones where he is taking other people's material and redoing them. That's why I admire the Japanese films being able to take and join these items together. And I certainly admire this, and think again of another of the Corman works, The Terror. The Terror is another film that took footage from an Eastern European setting of a film that was already shot and integrating it with material from Boris Karloff and material that speaks with Jack Nicholson. Bloodbath, Track of the Vampire. Going to have some fun with this. A couple people you might want to look for. Carl Schosner's in this. Remember him? He plays the lawyer in Spider Baby, and likewise Sid Haig. He plays one of the beatniks in this. Remember, he plays the idiot in the Spider Baby as well. If you're a Petticoat Junction fan, remember Bobby Joe Bradley? That one of those characters? That happens to be Laurie Saunders. She's the ballerina who dances around a lot in this thing. Sort of has this daytime relationship with William Campbell. And sort of says, will you paint me? Well, that's the last thing you want to ask of that guy, because his models don't really last too long. Well, thinking you're going to enjoy this film, Track of the Vampires. People are waving at me like crazy out here. I don't know what the hell is going on. What do we got? Oh, I can't read it. Okay, let's see what it says here, file. Bring it in here. Time's up. What the? Okay. Well, have fun with this movie. Shoot me an email if you have a mind to. I think you'll like this Track of the Vampire a heck of a lot. Let's roll 'em, Smokey.